In terms of the summary of what the Office of the Prosecutor has to say about the case thus far that has been presented of the past 4 days, of course, the purpose of this hearing has been to present an indictment and to request the court to confirm that indictment, as well as for the court to consider issuing any associated ancillary relief, such as, for example, the issuance of a warrant of arrest, as the court may see fit. Now, the case has been focused specifically on a single individual, a single perpetrator, and as such, the Office of the Prosecutor has been obliged to bring evidence on the numerous legal elements, such as whether there was a military incursion of the necessary gravity, scale, and character. I won't review the evidence in detail, but suffice it to say the Office of the Prosecutor suggests that, particularly with respect to the evidence of the witnesses from Ukraine, that the massive disruption to the social status would itself satisfy the determination that this has been of the necessary gravity and scale. I will only pause to note here that the incursion, as I think Colonel Vindman very clearly set out, was nowhere near focused the justification area that President Putin had set out, which was the Donbass region, but this was a broad-based incursion across more than 1,000 kilometers of territorial boundary well into the interior, and it really had nothing whatsoever to do with the area that he was claiming was in dispute. You can also find on the evidence before you, and particularly the testimony of the testimony of the witnesses, but also what I will say the statement before the court of President Putin himself, that there was preparation, planning, that he initiated and executed this incursion, and that he was in an effective leadership role. Now, it's a very uncommon situation for an accused who has chosen to absent himself to actually provide so much evidence to the court through his official statements on the Kremlin website, the Office of the President, but we have his statements, particularly those of the 21st of February and the 24th of February, and the essence of the statement was that it was my decision. The perpetrator was aware of the factual circumstances that established a manifest violation of the Charter of the United Nations. And here, one of the key pieces of evidence that we possess are statements by the United Nations Secretary General, who said he told Mr. Putin, bring the troops back. He said, stop the military operation, bring the troops back to Russia. The statement of the United Nations Secretary General on the evening of the 23rd, New York time, the morning of the 24th, Moscow time, the Secretary General said that he described to the representative of the Russian Federation that it is against the Charter and that unilateral measures conflict directly with the UN Charter, and they're a repudiation of the principles that everyone's committed to uphold. So, and he basically repeated that same thing, but in stronger terms, in stronger language, on the 25th. So here we have significant body of evidence from the highest level, the most senior international civil servant, who says that Putin was directly told that this was a violation. I said this at the outset in my opening statement, and I want to say it again, because this is a case that's not about the Russian Federation, and it's not about the citizens of Russia or the Russian armed forces or people of Russian heritage. It's only about the conduct of a single man and the decisions that he made to commit international criminal acts. In effect, his choice to act as an enemy of the human race. I also said this during the opening statement, Mr. President. I told you that this case that this office was presenting is a plea of humanity to law. Now that phrase was taken from the statement the opening statement of Mr. Benjamin Ferencz, the prosecutor of the Nuremberg tribunals more than half a century ago. It is the way in which this case before the court of the citizens of the world opened, and it is the statement by which I leave this court that this is a plea of humanity to law to confirm this indictment and find that there's a substantial body of evidence by which President Vladimir Putin is responsible for the crime of aggression.